episode of In a Car with IPR. I'm here with Brian Besanceney.
You nailed it.
I
Stuck the
always
landing on
do
the
it.
pronunciation.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you. And we're here in Orlando, Florida, where it's a gorgeous day. And I usually always give the title of people, but I feel like you should give your own title because you have so many titles.
I have many titles right now. I'm doing a portfolio lifestyle. So I'm working fractionally with a few companies. I'm doing board service. So I don't have a job. I have like 4 of them.
You do. So you're doing work with Alethea.
Yes. Fellow IPR.
Comms Collective.
Fellow IPR.
And Orlando Health.
Yeah.
Is that all? Like,
yeah, that's it.
Great.
And just a few things. Got a little LLC, so I'm doing a few other things. But yeah.
And then Brian has also been the chief comms officer at a lot of landmark brands. So, yeah.
I work for 3 Fortune 50 companies, Disney, Walmart, and Boeing. The last 2 as chief communications officer. And
he's also an IPR trustee. So,
I mean, what could be cooler than that, really?
Nothing. No. Except this day and this wonderful bridge we're on.
Yeah, this is what we call winter in Orlando. It's 65 degrees.
I'm here for it. Yeah, so. I'm here for it. So maybe give us a little sense of your career journey to how you are where you are today.
Yeah, I mean, I guess kind of 3 chapters to my career. Like, first, big piece of my career was in DC, doing typical DC things, government, service. Capitol Hill. I had the opportunity to work in the White House for 4 years. My running joke is I played Rob Lowe in The Real West Wing because we had the same, title.
He's a great person.
Obviously, nothing else in common, but and then this was during the Bush 43 administration. Second term, I led the team at the Department of Homeland Security during Hurricane Katrina, which was a big situation at that time. Then it was at the State Department with Condoleezza Rice for the last about 2.5 years of the administration. And then chapter 2 of my career, the 3 Fortune 50s, Disney, which is why we're in Orlando. And then, Walmart and then Boeing. And then left Boeing about 15 months ago and have been doing the portfolio life. I didn't know what that was. And actually Bill Heyman, who is well known in our community, is sort of one of the people that helped to invent headhunting for people like us. Bill said, you don't need another trophy in your trophy case. Like, you should think about doing a portfolio. And so that's what I've been building out really since last January.
Yeah, I met you when you were at Walmart, in the middle of the Walmart stint. So because of you worked for Walmart, you worked for Boeing during a really challenging rebuilding time for the company. So where you are now, are there any like lessons you can impart? Like, here's what I really learned, what it takes to be a wonderful leader in our field.
Yeah, I mean, I think, the story of our field, and I had an unfair head start. I should have mentioned, like, before chapter 1, the foreword of the book was that my dad started a marketing and public relations consultancy in our spare bedroom when I was 14 years old. And I was the only one who could work the IBM PC Junior at the time. Yeah. So I got exposed to this. Like, my first jobs in public relations were doing things like, when my dad would have for one of his clients some news to make, the way that you made news was that you had to put out a press release. And the way that you had to get the press release out was that you had to put them in envelopes and drop them off at the news desk. And so my job for one summer, I remember in particular, was, he would spin the block and I would jump out, run into the news desk, drop off the press release. And then by the time I did that, he spun back around because we had 5 more stops to go.
You're like the paper boy of press releases.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
And so, I think the history of this profession is the history of technological change and adaptation. And I think if you don't have an appetite for change being the new normal, this is probably not the right, profession to try to build a career in. And so I think the best leaders are, I think, ones who embrace that, accept it, embrace it, and try to lean into it. I also think just this world of increasing political and geopolitical complexity, stakeholder relationships that are more complicated. People have access to a lot more information. They have a lot more ways to get feedback than they ever have before. And so I think all those things kind of coming together. People who can think as good business leaders, who can see the whole playing field politically, geopolitically, stakeholder expectations, and be great communicators. Those things all have to kind of live in the same brain these days.
Yeah, you really have to do so much in so many different areas, I feel, and it's just getting increasingly a lot more responsibilities.
Yes. 1,000%.
Well, I'm excited about today.
Yeah, this will be fun.
You ready to go to our next stop?
Yeah, we're gonna see some places in Orlando that maybe aren't on the usual tourist beat. So
They're not like, so we're not going to SeaWorld and Disney World or Alligator Alley or anything
we
today?
will not be within 20 miles of many of those places. We're gonna go see where the like actual people in Orlando live and work and play.
That's right. All right, well, let's go.
Let's do it.
Okay, Brian.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about where we are.
So I told you we weren't going to go to the typical tourist destinations, and so we are at Orlando Health, and behind us is the Orlando Health Jewett Orthopedic Institute. This is the first dedicated orthopedic hospital in the entire state of Florida.
Oh, interesting.
And just opened a couple of years ago. They have some absolutely amazing technology inside, but even better people. And the reason we're here, we talked about like the portfolio and working across different companies and organizations, and part of that for me is board service. And so I just completed my term as chairman of the board of Orlando Health.
Oh, you're completed. You're completed.
I'm now immediate past chair.
I like it.
And so just within the last few weeks, and so I'm still on the board, but I passed the gavel on to onto the vice chair. And but this is one of the things that kind of happened during my time on the board, and and for us in our profession, there's a lot of talk. I think a lot of chief communications officers have exposure to the board. They have to brief the board from time to time. Maybe they have one of the committees of the board that they get to work with. But there's also, a handful of us, and hopefully a growing trend, who've actually had the chance to serve on the other side and be on the board. And I think when boards are starting to look at their skills matrix in terms of like what expertise do they have in the board and on the board, you're starting to see the work that we do showing up a little bit more.
So this is part of your portfolio, and I need to talk about your work with the Comms Collective, because Jane Randall will, if we don't talk about Comms Collective, we'll be in trouble.
Absolutely.
Let's put it that way.
So there are 5 former chief communications officers, and Lisa Ryan, who's we always say is the secret sauce. Lisa, was Bill Heyman's first hire when he started Heyman Associates, and so they in many ways invented headhunting for people like us, and so. A couple of years ago, a group of them came together. I joined about a year in, and it was around this idea of trying to bring the fractional executive leadership model to our profession. CFOs have been doing this for 15 plus years. CHROs and CMOs have been doing it for 10. We haven't seen as many examples in our professional community of experienced leaders doing fractional work, and we're trying to kind of both raise awareness of the model and stimulate more people on the hiring end of the equation to consider fractional as a potential solution. We have over 200 people on our talent network that have all been vetted by Lisa, so they have the good housekeeping seal of approval from Lisa Ryan, and they cover the full gamut of industry backgrounds and perspectives and things like that. We've done a number of placements. We're learning different permutations of the model, that are working for people. It could be a mid-cap company that maybe doesn't have a really senior person, and maybe day to day, they have what they need, but they didn't build a church for Easter Sunday. If it's a mid-cap company with a big cap problem, they're not ready for that. And this can be an alternative for them. It can also be an experienced CCO who's kind of wants to have a kitchen cabinet. We've had a couple of folks who are first-time CCOs who want to just have a consigliere in their back pocket who can be a sounding board at a peer level in a way that's different than being a consultant, or different than having another fully in-house person. And so it's been fun to kind of help maybe bring that model to life. And for me, and I think for a number of the other partners, it's in some ways kind of a gift back to our profession, just to kind of create more paths for people.
All right, so I think we're going to go to another destination.
Awesome.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
All right, Brian, in one of your many roles.
Yes.
Many roles.
Well, first of all, do you want to set up where we are now?
Oh, well, I don't want to, but you should.
We're showing people what maybe you don't see.
The tourist
destination. The experience of
destination.
Orlando is Disney and the Convention Center. That is welcome, but also, so we're in downtown Winter Park. We're on Park Avenue. This is Central Park. It's not Central Park like Manhattan, but this is Winter Park version of it. charming shops, restaurants, sidewalk cafes, brick-lined streets, and it's January and we got a fountain going. So,
Yeah.
I mean, what could
There's no ice in it,
yeah,
so that's how
yeah.
it's
We
a
may
good
get a train
sign.
here at some point. There's a train station, so
Yes, it was just here actually, Amtrak. Yeah.
affected my parking plans. But anyway,
So in your one-year mini roles, you are the principal advisor
yes,
at Alethea.
deeply principled.
Deeply principled. Okay, so can you maybe, so Alethea, and they track and like monitor disinformation for
Yeah.
industries, government,
Yeah,
all of
particularly
these.
helping companies to navigate online risk, including organized kind of disinformation campaigns, identifying misinformation, and then helping companies through a combination of increasingly AI-powered technology, but also humans who have worked in places like the intelligence agencies and political campaigns who understand how influence operations work. And so they kind of put those two things together into something that helps companies navigate situations that they don't expect to encounter online.
Yes. And so IPR does an annual disinformation study with Leger. We have one that we're about to launch. And we look at how disinformation is perceived in society. And it's fascinating. We define disinformation as deliberately false or misleading information. You can check out our studies on our IPR page. Thank you. So maybe talk a little bit about what you're seeing in terms of disinformation and communications. Like, what do we need to be concerned about and sort of where we are?
Yeah, I mean, I think, the first time I became aware of Alethea, I was at a conference a few years ago, and I felt like we've been talking about this as a profession for a few years, but I hadn't really seen anyone trying to attack this specifically. And so that was part of what, drew me there, first as a client and then now as an advisor. And, I think this is getting more and more complicated. The social media platforms have, by and large, moved away from content moderation.
Yes.
And so it is a little bit of the Wild West out there right now. And then you're also seeing a lot of actors, nation state actors, are very sophisticated at this and getting more sophisticated. But, political actors, other people who just want to, kind of fool around, short sellers.
Right, short sellers to drive the
yeah, so you're
say
seeing
negative
a lot
things
of
about a
different
company to buy the
actors
stock.
with
Yeah,
a lot of different motivations, some of which are financial, some of which are geopolitical. But when they have a chance to target a brand or an institution, particularly here in the United States, there are a lot of different ways that those actors can put them through the ringer online. And so companies like Alethea help you, kind of detect and mitigate those types of threats. I think for our profession, this is going to be an increasing part of the mix of what we have to deal with. It's already here. But you see some of these reports about some of the big kind of blow up kerfuffles over the last 6 to 12 months, and how many of the actors in those, when you measure online volume, are inauthentic. They're bot farms,
right,
and things like that. And so it's forcing us then to think about gosh, the way I've been measuring for the last 15 years maybe doesn't feel entirely adequate because I'm not accounting for the potential of inauthentic actors in that, it's not just about the 100,000 or 100 million views that the content got. What percentage of those aren't authentic?
Right, because then if bots are driving the conversation, but people they don't care.
Yeah, are they amplifying it or
are they just?
And I think, on those two ends of the spectrum and a lot of space in between, this is where the stuff can get really complicated really fast.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to ask you to get out your crystal ball. All right. So looking ahead at the profession, let's do in the next few years, like maybe 18 months to 3 years. What do you see as what's changing, and what do we need to do to be prepared of what's coming?
I think we all know that AI is a thing. We've hopefully all moved beyond drafting our statement using the AI tool and seeing if that's faster, and we've now started to move into other applications for that. And so on the how do we run our teams and build our teams perspective, I think it's going to make us more productive as a profession because you have these tools at your disposal. But on the flip side, misinformation, disinformation, it's going to supercharge efforts to just throw stuff against the wall and see stuff stick because it's lowering the cost for the bad actors of generating that type of content. So, there will be some puts and takes that come with that, but I think that's a thing. The other big thing that's out there, and putting on even the broader corporate affairs, lens, we are living in this kind of world where we're consciously or unconsciously dismantling 80 years of the post-World War II economic relationship between countries, the geopolitical, the security relationships between countries are all being altered right now. And so multinational organizations, companies, associations, whatever they are having to navigate a more disconnected set of stakeholders, all of whom are armed with AI tools and lots of other ways to kind of
different
express
technology.
themselves. And so that geopolitical piece, I think, over the next 3-ish years or so, is only going to get more complicated as the things that we all grew up taking for granted, like breathing, are going to be rewired.
Yeah.
And so that's going to create complexities again, particularly for these countries and other institutions that are, by their nature, multinational.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, even the next year, I feel like everything's ramping up so fast.
That's right. And then I do, I think about the opportunities that we would have had, early in our career to learn and do things like that. I do worry about this idea of maybe a diamond-shaped workforce coming into play, and like how do you get the types of experiences that I had at 22 or 23 or 24 that led me to the White House, Disney, Walmart, Boeing, portfolio life board chairmanship. A lot of those like formative experiences happened in those first few years out of college, and those left fork, right fork decisions that you make. And how are we not displacing that with AI and the other things that are coming behind it, quantum and things like that?
Because then you're going to have a really inexperienced mid-level workforce
that's
who doesn't know all the
ultimately, like, the machines may be better at intelligence in terms of information, but they might not be better at wisdom. And ultimately, at the end of the day, what you're paying particularly for senior level people to do is that wisdom piece. And how do we give people who are just starting out in the profession and their careers that same opportunity to learn how to be wise that maybe we had, learn the hard way, stub your toes, whatever it is. I am concerned about that.
Yeah. I feel like this is a good opportunity to go to the Modest Wine Shop in our next destination.
Bubbles could make this all
they help. So here. All right, let's hit it.
Let's do it.
I love a little midday treat.
Nothing like late morning, very, very early, immediately afternoon stop at the wine shop.
I know, my favorite thing is a mimosa without the orange juice. So here we are.
Well, we can get you halfway there. Yeah, mimosa without the orange juice. Yeah, we got you all the way there on that one.
All right, so tell us a little bit about it.
So we're in Winter Park, Florida, which is one of the most historic parts of Central Florida. I think 1885 is when it was founded. Brick-lined streets and stuff like that. Lots of great restaurants. James Beard Winter right across the street.
Oh.
And one of the really cool things about what's happened in Winter Park recently is the addition of some very, very, like I say, great restaurants, but also a really cool wine shop led by a master sommelier, Kyle Riddington. And his better half is also a WSET level 3 sommelier.
I don't know what that means, but it sounds really important.
Wine and Spirits Education Trust, which is the kind of accrediting agency out of the UK. And part of the reason we really were drawn to this place is that when I worked at Walmart, my wife and I both became WSET level 2 sommeliers. It was we had to break a sweat to pass the exam, and we talked to our professor about doing level 3 because level 2 went right up to the border of work and fun. He's like, "Yeah, level 3 goes way over the border." So, but anyway, we're here with a master sommelier who specializes in champagne. So, what do you have for us?
So, I was recently in the Champagne region of France and visited this really small family-owned producer. And to kind of give you a little bit of a scale on how small they are, when we look at a Veuve Clicquot, a very well-known champagne in America, they make about 20 to 30 million bottles annually. This producer right here, they make 50,000. So a crumb in the pie. And what makes this a little unique is this champagne ages on a cork, where most champagne ages on a crown top, much like a Coca-Cola top.
Right.
Cheers.
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 Thank you.
Pleasure.
Oh, it's very nice.
Taste.
Very nice. So this part we take from James Lipton inside the Actors Studio, where he used to ask them questions, just like fun questions about people to get to know them. You ready?
Yeah, do it.
Who would you want to have dinner with? Who they could have passed on or living?
Yeah.
And no.
Yeah, I mean, that one's easy for me, and that's my dad. He passed away in 2020 during the COVID year, and very suddenly, 74, like man with no history of heart problems, died of a heart attack. And so it was just this very sudden thing. In fact, as we were driving over here today, I was about to go into the dentist's office when I found out, and so we drove past the dentist's office where I was just a minute ago. And so, you know, it was one of those kind of just very sudden things. Like I'd give a kidney just to have dinner with him for a couple hours and just, you know, and it was cool because we had this opportunity maybe, you know, 3 or 4 months earlier to, we touched base at least once a week. And for whatever reason, this particular call that we had went on for we talked for like an hour and a half. And it was almost like we talked a lot and talked about a lot of things we didn't normally talk about in a way that I got a little bit of closure out of that when it did happen, but I'd still give a kidney to see him one more time.
My dad died of a massive heart attack as well, very unexpected.
Yeah.
So what about, are there any podcasts you listen to a lot?
Diary of a CEO. I've become absolutely addicted to it. This is a podcast out of the UK. It's very long form. Like you have to be prepared for an hour and a half plus episodes sometimes. But this guy, a relatively young guy, and he just interviews some of these like world-class experts, like literally top of the food chain in their profession on a variety of different topics. So one day it might be an expert on metabolism. The next day it's an expert on geopolitical issues. Another day it might be someone on brain science. But just really, really interesting, really, really kind of deep and perfect for like an airplane or a long car ride.
Nice book.
I'm all over the place on books.
I've seen some of your books.
I will tell you one book I think is really important for people in our profession to read, and it's been out since maybe 2017, 2018. And it's called Dignity. And the author's name is Chris Arnade. He is a kind of a photojournalist. He started as a stockbroker in New York, just got kind of burned out on that experience. And he decided to just go around. His shtick is he kind of like walks places. And often he'll start out like at a McDonald's. I started covering him when I was at Walmart because he'll also go there. And he says, these are kind of the new town commons, in the 21st century. And he just kind of talks to people. And, you know, he has a really good, he explicitly says in the book, he's not trying to explain populism, but he kind of has the best explanation I've seen for where the populist movement comes from and why it's kind of created this weird place on the political spectrum where you almost like unite people from the Bernie Bros and the MAGA hat, where it's kind of find common ground on things. And I think it's the best explanation I've seen that. And because he's a photojournalist, you can truly do it as an airplane read. But I think that the core message of the book and just understanding people's frustration with the governing classes in a lot of the industrial West is really, I think, worth reading if you're in this profession.
All right, so the final question, it's always people can get touched by this. If heaven exists, what would you want God to say, if there is one, as you enter the pearly gates?
Yeah. Just that you left it a better place than you found it. And that, you know, you did things the right way. I think there are all those times in your life, and we all make compromises and things like that. But you know, there are things in your life, there are moments in your life where you have a choice to do things the right way, or you know, even when no one else is looking. Yeah. And just to know that was, you know, like that someone did see that and recognize that was the right thing to do, I think would be nice and meaningful.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you having
us
today.
Of course. Welcome.
This is fantastic. We had a great time here in Orlando.
Happiest place on earth.
That's what I hear. That sounds familiar. I know, yes. So Brian's been a wonderful tour guide of the non-traditional places to see in Orlando. But thanks for joining us for this episode of In a Car with IPR. If you want to catch us on YouTube, give us a thumbs up and continue watching the series. So thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching this episode of In a Car with IPR. Want to make a tax-deductible contribution to support this series and fund research in the profession? Please visit us at instituteforpr.org/contribute.